Hi, I'm Erica and we're going on to another of our tags for the Demo Plus workshop, and this one is all about texture. There's a lot of different pastes and techniques going on there, and then on the other side we've got a more simplified design, but that background is using the infusions. So I've already pre-covered this and I've painted it with the fresco finish paint in the colour called chalk, just to prime it and enable other things to go on it more easily. So we'll do the back of it first because that's a simple one and it can dry quite quickly. So for that I need my spritzer bottle and a couple of bottles of the infusions powders. These are a dye-based coloured stain in powder form that reacts with water. So the best thing to do is to just pierce a hole in the top of the lid and they are ready to go. So let's get started. I've put a mat down because they do tend to spread a little bit, and what I'm doing now is just spritzing ordinary water on my tag. You can see there's already a little bit come off of the bottle. So you just take the cap off the lid and just sprinkle away, and then you can always add another colour. There's 12 colours to choose from. I've chosen two very similar ones just to keep it in with the whole design. Then a little bit more water and it really activates them. And you can always just merge them about. Add a little bit more in places. A little bit more water, and then when you're happy with the colours you need to heat set them, because if you can see there's walnut stain in the powder as well, and the longer you leave it the more brown and antique the colour gets. So if you like the bright colours, set it quite early. I've got quite a lot of water on there, so I'm going to just take a dab a little bit off, otherwise we'll be here all day. And then you can always use it to add some texture by dabbing it back on. Obviously you never get the same thing twice, so it's a really interesting technique. Just take that stuff off the back. Now it remains water reactive unless it's sealed, so you may want to just sponge over some gloss or matte glaze and then it will be sealed and then nothing else will reactivate on it. This is a tag. I may not seal it because I'm never going to put water on it, so it may be that it's fine as it is. But I'll do my stamping later. But first of all, actually I will do my stamping first because I'm thinking there's a lot of texture going on there, and if I do my stamping afterwards it will just be messy. The stamps come from this set. It's the Everything Art, and it's their number 4, and it's of the seasons, it's the last quarter. So I've used the Wherever You Go, Go With All Your Heart and the stars. So first of all we'll take the main character stamp, and I'm going to use the Cobalt archival ink. make sure you've got plenty of ink on the stamp. Then press it down in the centre. Nice even pressure. You want this one to come out as best as possible. And there we go. Obviously, as you can see there, I'll wait for that to dry down, but I did go over the text in black, and I used a pipped artist's pen in black just to make those stand out a little bit more. Next we're picking the stars. Oops, stuck down really well. There we go, there's the stars. And you just randomly put these around the outside. So they can come further in, further out, just to frame it. And then if there's any missing bits, you go in afterwards. So there's a little pointy bit there, so you can just get maybe just 1 or 2 stars in there. Ooh, hope that didn't make you dizzy, me doing that. There we go. So that, other than the journaling over the top, that is done. Again, heat set, just to make it easier. So we'll do the other side now. This one requires a lot of sort of different texture pastes, and it takes time to dry. So I'm preparing it now, and then I'll have to come back to it later because those cannot be heat gunned. They must be allowed to dry naturally. So the first thing that I will be using is the Deco Art Media Crackle Paste in white. I'm using this on a couple of the tags because it's just so lovely. It's really nice texture. It's a very thick paste. It's best not to overplay it because then the crackles sometimes don't work. And it's just a case, as I've done here, I think I'm going to just put some in the middle, and I want some areas thick and some areas thin. So, and even like that hole, I'm going to leave that. It's very random and messy. It's not very good for anybody who's like a very purist, likes everything completely neat. This is not an easy thing to do. So that's got to be allowed to dry, but I'm going to add my other textures to it and then put it all to one side as a whole. The next thing I'm using is the Deco Art Media Texture Sand Paste in a neutral. So it's just like a greyish tone. This is a weird paste. It's the more you mix it, the thinner and runnier it gets. And I'll give the technical term, that means it's thixotropic, but there we go. Word of the day. But what I'm doing, again with the spatula, is just randomly adding some to the edges. Now this has like a sand in them, and it's just going to give you a nice rough texture. I'd quite like to get it the whole way round because of this edging that I'm going to be doing, and it looks quite nice to have it going all the way round. So as long as I've got it around, I'll be happy. And I'm going to mix it in a little bit with the other stuff. Like I say, you just don't know what's going to happen, so you can mix it up and see what happens. Like so. And then the very last thing that I'm going to add to this is a Prima product, and it's the Finnavar Art Ingredients Mini Art Stones. So these are really like little pebbles, but they're crushable, so they're like plaster. I don't quite know what they're made of, but they're great, and they just add a little bit of texture, and because this is wet, they're going to stick in this paste. So if you wanted to put, if this was all dry and you put these on, you would want to put some glue down first. But we're going to lose some of them, so it's better to put more on than not enough. And just add them, I think, in little clusters. Look really good. Maybe a little bit there. We'll see, that might not stick, but we'll see what happens. So at the moment it's all looking a bit random and a bit messy, but we put that to one side and come back to it, and hopefully we've got some of the textures going on. So while we're here, we can at least do this piece, and this one is just a little piece of chipboard. It's already been cut out. It's a leftover from another kit. You could always die cut some hardboard and make your own. So I'm going to do the embossing technique with this. So I'm going to put this to one side to dry. Oh, somewhere. Right. Oh, got little stones everywhere now. Chasing them around the table. Okay, so, oh, you can see that those infusions have spread themselves. The nice thing is they're totally water reactive and they will all come off. So what I want to do is use my Versamark ink pad. I've used a stamp, and I just thought the heart would look really nice with a leaf vein on it, and it came out really well. So we've got the leaf vein stamp, put that on a block, and embossing powder. There's not a lot in here now, it's the gold, it's just a plain gold embossing powder. So the first thing we need to do is have a sheet of paper underneath, because now we've got a lot of bits and pieces on our table. This isn't the cleanest, this should be white, but they do get dirty, but it doesn't mean that they're no good, they just get dirty. So we're putting the embossing powder on top of the heart. Shake it off. That remainder goes back into the pot. Then we need to, where should we put that? Oh, we're running out of space now. Then we need to heat that. You can see the shine is beautiful, but we want to do this again at least one more time. I think I'll do two more. So that, now let it cool just a minute, because the chipboard retains the heat and then the embossing powder doesn't actually dry, and then it all sticks to your embossing pad when you go to re-ink. So press that in again, repeat the process. And then we'll do it one more time. It's called triple embossing because usually 3 layers of embossing. Simple as. And what this time I'm going to put some ink onto the stamp as well, because this gets pressed into this when it's hot, and I just like to have something to release it. So we put some more on, not upside down, put some more on this, put our stamp and our ink pad to one side because you don't want powder all over it. That. Do that one more time. Now it's really important that we've got everything ready to go, because we have to act quite quickly. So we make sure everything's away and ready. So the minute that melts, that gets pressed straight in. So just heating this one last time. Melting all the powder, and as soon as I'm ready, that's going to go straight into it. That looks good, and straight down. Now the surface can be a bit slippy, so you need to press down gently when you do this, otherwise you can slide straight off of the piece of work. So hopefully you let it just cool down a little bit. Then when you peel it off, you've got a lovely embossed heart. I think that leaf really looks nice on that. Almost looks like veins in a heart. Right, so that is my heart done. And then I'll be waiting for my texture to dry, and we'll be able to finish that one off. Okay, so we've got our tag all dried. You can see some of the balls didn't stick, but we expect that. That's why we put a bit extra on. Now the colouring, oh dear, let's get rid of them. The colouring comes from two colours of the fresco finish, claret and pumpkin soup. Then the actual edging is the DecoArt Media Fluid Acrylic in Payne's Grey. I like this colour because it just gives a nice... Black would be too harsh, so the Payne's Grey is just that lovely soft blue grey that really works on the tag. So let's get started. So I just want put it on some sheet because we have to water it down. A little bit of the claret, a little bit of the pumpkin soup, we don't need a lot, which is good, and lots of water because we're doing a really watery effect with this one. And then with a brush we'll just start small with some very thin washes, and then we'll build from there. But if you can see, it falls into the cracks, gives a lovely finish. Just clean my brush. And just put it in patches around the tag. If you can see, as it falls in between all the little crevices, you get some lovely texture going on. It's just a case of building up some colour on it. Oops, too much colour. Water it down. If you are worried, you can always just spritz straight onto it and add the water direct. And then if it's getting too much of one colour, just take some off. But the nice thing is it falls all down into those cracks and gives that emphasis. Let's put that back in there. Now my brush is getting a bit too dirty, so we need to add some and as you can see, the sand texture just sucks the colours in, so you get much more of an intensity of colour on those areas, which I quite like. So I'm kind of happy with that. Now we're going to have the Payne's Grey. I'll put a little bit out, and again lots of water for this one now. And what we're going to do is we're going to edge it, and you can see because of the sand texture it sucks the colour up. I don't know if you can see that, but it flows and it gives a really lovely soft edge to the piece of work. Hopefully you can see that. I think it's going a little bit too far, so I might have to dry it, otherwise it'll all be grey. But hopefully you can see that just being sucked into the piece of work. I found that purely by accident, but it's a really nice finish. Now I feel that I've lost my yellow a bit, so I'm going to add a little bit more yellow, but with the smaller brush, but still with lots of water. And we just go in places, and again you can dab some off if it's getting too much, but really this is just a play now, trying to just get another kind of texture going. But you can see how you're never going to get the same thing twice, but that's what I like about it. Almost looks like a planet. Right, let's quickly dry it, see what we got. Might add a little touch more of this on the edges. But you can see it's very different to the other one, but then that's just how it goes. You never get exactly the same. So because I've got more white on this one, you can always just do like a wash over it and take it down a little bit more, so you can see the translucent. Oh, I didn't point out that these are translucents, so they will show through what's underneath, so really nice for this kind of layering, because the underneath now is dry, so what we put on top is changing but not removing what's underneath. Oops, not too much water. That's given us a bit more colour, because it was looking a bit too thin. I'm really happy with that one now. So all it needs is for the embossed heart to be put. I mean, the nice thing is, maybe I'm not happy with that bit there, I can put the heart there. So I can choose where it goes. It's entirely up to you. But that is pretty much the finish. Obviously I'll just glue that down, but that's pretty much the tag completed.